Hello and welcome to A Conversation with the Chairman. My name is Neil Morgan. I'm the York County Administrator. I'm joined today with Sheila Knoll, Chairman of the York County Board of Supervisors for the year 2018. Sheila, this is the third time we've gotten together to have this type of conversation, and we really want to sort of review the year 2018, and let's start with your thoughts on what the accomplishments for 2018 have been.
Thank you, Neil. I'm glad that we're having this conversation again. I've enjoyed the past ones that we've done. This year we're talking about challenges, and you can't talk about accomplishments unless you do cover the challenges. And I think the biggest challenge that we faced was the loss of revenue from Plains and Dominion, almost $2.4 million.
Yep.
And the funding from the state is still not where it should be, but this year the state actually came through with something when they passed Senate Bill 942, which is a tourism tax and allows James City County, Williamsburg, and York County to raise their sales tax 1 penny. But with that came some restrictions and some rules, and one of the caveats was that we had to set up a tourism council. That tourism council took several months to do, and it involved the boards, the administrators, the city manager, and of course all your staff.
A lot of cat herding.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. But in the end, we have a cohesive organization made up of elected officials and men and leaders from the business community, a variety of businesses. So I think everybody is fairly well represented. And so I guess I can say now that what was a challenge in setting it up is now, I think, an accomplishment.
Yeah, so my version of that is when you mention Plains and Dominion, those are our two largest taxpayers. So, from a government administration standpoint, when you start to look at your finances and the news is your two largest taxpayers are shrinking in a large sort of way, that's a very concerning event. So for us in York County especially, the upside of SB 942, both that it will hopefully juice the tourism economy, for which we're highly dependent, and also that it will actually bring dollars to the York County General Fund, will make the difference probably in the year coming up between a real struggle and hopefully a fairly solid year financially.
This is a regional endeavor, honestly. And even though we don't have Colonial Williamsburg or Busch Gardens, we do have the hotels and the motels and the timeshares where visitors who are coming to the area to tour stay. And they're in our county.
So a lot of people don't think about it. 7 of our 12 largest real estate taxpayers are tied to the tourist industry. So if tourism is just incrementally more successful, that drops to the bottom line for York County.
Yeah. Tourism is so important to our economy.
Sometimes I speak to a group that's having a conference at the Great Wolf Lodge, and I sort of jokingly start my remarks with saying, I know you think you're having a conference in Williamsburg, but you're actually having a conference in York County. But that's the point. It's marketed as Williamsburg, and nobody who comes here as a tourist really cares where the boundary is.
Yes, York County's not an island. How the region goes, so do we.
Absolutely.
And so it's very important that we all work together if we want this to be a successful venture, because we really need to support tourism. It's one of the biggest contributors to our economy.
And I think your point about regional cooperation applies really to just any form of economic development.
Yes.
When you're looking for businesses to invest money and create jobs, those businesses really don't care about political boundaries.
No, they don't. And when we're talking about economic development, we should talk about what's happened in our county this past year. 1, 2, 3. The first year that I was chairman, I know that I did several grand openings and ribbon cuttings. 1, 2, 3. But I think this year that has really grown. And I think it's a testament to our economy and the confidence that people have in York County. For example, we opened Kroger's just recently, and I know citizens are always happy when we fill empty spaces. Unfortunately, Kroger's came in to fill the space left by Farm Fresh.
Yeah, that left a big gap.
That left a huge gap. But the bigger gap even was also up in the upper part of county. Remember, we had a storefront that was,
Williamsburg Marketplace.
yes, for what, almost 4 years.
1, 2, 3, Calvin!
Now we have Big Lots up there, and it's a beautiful store, and I hope that it does very well. And Snow Companies bought a Class A facility in the upper part of the county. They redid that building, and they took into account all the amenities that would make it more pleasant for their employees. One thing that was so nice about Snow Companies is that it was a homegrown business here in York County. And when they wanted to expand, they didn't leave the county. We are going to have the Taste of Cuba right here in York County. And of course, we've got new restaurants, Cuban style in the upper county, and 2 seafood establishments on Route 17. New, small, family-owned businesses throughout the upper and lower part of the county. And you know, small businesses are always the backbone of any county or city.
1, 2, 3, cut!
The last one that I went to was Vintage Fair, which is close to Ken Matthews. And what people have been waiting for forever, it seems, is Play Around Family Fun Center on 17. So I really hope that the teenagers are using it, because that is something that they have felt that they had needed. While we're talking about the new establishments in York County, we mentioned Kroger's, we also had a couple of our Food Line stores in the county upgraded, so that was very nice to see happening.
Yeah, it has been a good year for the economy.
Yes, it has.
Not only in York County, but Hampton Roads in general, things have been moving in the right direction. We want to keep moving that way by continuing to explore how the region can work better together.
Yes.
One of the things that a lot of time and effort has gone into on the whole Virginia Peninsula, with York County playing a leadership role, is the creation of the Regional Industrial Facilities Authority, the RIFA. And of course, the first project that we're leading related to that is the development of the Unmanned Systems Testing Facility, or the so-called drone park, up off of Penniman Road. We've gotten grant funds to work on that. It's still a work in progress, but maybe you could just tell the folks a little bit about what the idea is there.
Actually, I'm very excited about the RIFA and our partners with Hampton, Newport News, Poquoson, James City County, Williamsburg, and Gloucester, because it's an organization that initially we all buy into, but down the road, if you don't want to buy into a particular project, you don't have to. Some counties and cities have land, but maybe not the finances, and the reverse would be that they have the money to invest, but they don't have the land. So this is a wonderful marriage, I think, and I think it's got my fingers crossed that this is going to do well, and this is just the first of many.
So 2018 overall has been a pretty solid year, despite the challenges with a couple of our big taxpayers. We can't help but talk about money because, of course, that's what pays for services.
Yes, of course.
And why don't you mention our strategic priorities? Customer service, schools, public safety.
Well, of course. The board has always provided sustainable funding for schools for expansion or new technology, many other things that we've been asked to provide money for. And this year we provided money for 2 resource officers for our middle schools for security reasons. And I would hope that the state would also provide more money for school security. That's very, very important. But Neil, you know, I think the fact that you and the school superintendent have been meeting regularly has really helped the boards understand and appreciate the needs of the schools and the issues that they face. And after all, our children are so important to us that I'm so glad that you have gotten us on the right road. And I have to thank you and Vic for that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm sure the superintendent does as well. You know, one of the things I've noticed this past year working with the schools is a stronger recognition that we're sort of all in this together. And there is, it's silly to think of it as they win, we lose,
Us and
we
them.
win, they
Right.
lose. And I really feel like we have made some progress. I appreciate you recognizing
Well,
that.
I think not only I recognize it, I think the whole board recognizes it. So, you know, I think we're moving forward, and that's important.
You mentioned the school resource officers, which we were able to provide for our middle schools. And maybe you could comment a little bit more about the investments we're making in public safety.
You and your staff, with their experience working with the consultant, were able to identify really some problems that the county has with their infrastructure. And I know one of the biggies, of course, is a public safety building. We need a separate public safety building. But now I'm going to ask you, how do you think you're going to pay for it?
Certainly, our plan is to use a significant portion of the SB 942 money that we started the program talking about
Right.
to be able to afford to make the investment in what we're calling a law enforcement building. So county facilities in general need some investment in various places, but clearly the most significant single investment that we need to find a way to include in our next 6-year CIP is a new law enforcement building, you know, and based on the space study.
I
the
toured
space-
it, and
yeah.
believe me, I agree with you that we do need a new building.
So they're in about 1/3 of the space they ought to be in,
Sure.
and it gets to the point where it starts to get in the way of effective law enforcement operations. So hopefully over the next couple of years we'll be able to design that building, construct it shortly thereafter, and once we get that done, fire administration and social services will be able to backfill and renovate where they're at, and that will be the most significant investments in public facilities. And of course, while doing that, we're continuing to fund school facility renovations
Sure.
at a very respectable scale, so that within the 6-year plan, I think what we'll see is basically if it hasn't already been done, every school in the county will have received a significant facelift.
That's good.
In the last 15
Well,
years.
we've had some in the past couple of years. I think also, weren't you thinking about finding more space for the registrar's office?
Right. There's a separate bucket of challenges that
Okay.
aren't as expensive as the ones related
That's
to public
right.
safety, having to do with our administrative offices in Yorktown. And with the space studies assistance, we're working on a plan to deal with those in a more modest, incremental way. The registrar has a space problem typically associated with major elections. And so what we are working on is a plan to move the registrar to rental space with sort of a main operation in South Central County,
Okay.
and also a sort of a branch location in North County where volunteers and election workers can be mobilized and trained. So we hope to work all that out in the next few months, and then with the space they vacate and some other modest changes we're working on, we'll be able to release some of the overcrowding in the finance building and get our facilities in Yorktown in good shape for the foreseeable future.
Well, I think that the people who live in the upper part of the county will be pleased to have some office space opened up for the registrar, especially for absentee voting. And gradually, I know we're going to be able to take care of the needs that we have, but it takes a little bit of time.
No question, I think if you were to ask me what the next year is going to look like, I think it's the year of facilities. It's the year where
Yes.
we really need to bear
Yes.
down on
Yes, we do.
making a plan for the investment in the facilities we need to keep this county moving forward.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've covered, I think, 3 of the board's priorities, but there's another one still that we haven't talked about, and that has to do with customer service. Customer service is the face of the county. This past year, you've been trying to upgrade the technology so that you will improve the service both internally and externally for the county and for our citizens. And I know that the staff has been taking a lot of time in training to work on this new program, which I believe is called Munis.
Yeah, so there's several different major technology investments underway, and really it's at the heart of customer service in the long time for the organization. Our financial accounting system is in place. We're now working on an HR payroll module, and we're making other investments to help our workers in the field, our assessors, our planning and development services inspectors, our public works inspectors, and even a damage assessment tool for the next time we have a tropical event to deal with.
The storms have created some challenges for us this year. We've had Florence and we've had Michael, and I think you've had a few challenges regarding how the state has handled some of the issues.
Yeah, so 2 tropical events in one season, not out of the ordinary for York County. Each had its special set of circumstances. Of course, everybody in the county heard all about Florence. We had the state evacuation order. That generated some confusion and frustration. I don't criticize the fact that there was an order. We were not given an advanced warning of the evacuation. We had to open a shelter as a result in South County at Tabb High School.
Yes, you did, and actually I thought that was good training for the people. I went over there, and I have to tell you there were only 2 people in there that was you at the time that I was there to use it.
Yeah, the best you could say about that was we have a lot of people responsible for providing shelter services that probably needed the experience of actually opening a shelter. And since the schools had already been closed due to the evacuation order, it didn't really put anyone out. So it turned out to be a pretty good drill.
Yes.
There's been some debrief since Florence, and how the state will coordinate with us in the future will hopefully be improved should that happen again.
Okay.
So
Well,
in
it's
the case-
going to happen, so you might as well be prepared.
Yeah, so in the case of Florence, it was basically a lot of talk, and we had to set everything up as though it was going to be a storm, but essentially 0 actual impact. And then 3 weeks later, I guess, we had Tropical Storm Michael. Which had not nearly as much of a run-up in terms of planning and declarations and all of that, but it actually hit quite hard. Now, we knew it was coming, and it wasn't a total surprise, but it was a kind of event that you really couldn't do much until it happened. And in fact, the impact on York County was pretty significant. We had about 15 homes damaged. About half of the county was without power, in some cases for over 48 hours.
Even all your offices,
Yes.
especially.
And still at the time of this filming, we're still in the debris removal pickup. We had about 1,800 debris removal situations, and so all of our solid waste folks are out working that, and it's going to run right into leaf collection season. Of course, we didn't have any contractors or FEMA emergency declarations this time, so we pretty much had to do it with our own sources. And I just want to say that we appreciate the citizens' patience, because some folks have had to wait several weeks to get that cleaned up.
But they know eventually it is going to be cleaned up, and the crews just have to work overtime until they get it done.
And one other point, just like in the case of Florence, we got to exercise the shelter function. In the case of Michael, we actually got to use the damage assessment tool that you alluded to a minute ago. We had enough damage around the county that the damage assessment team, comprised of the assessor's office and planning and development services staff, went around the county using their new remote technology. And so the good thing about that was it wasn't an overwhelming amount of damage. So in a year or 2 or 3, when we get a really major storm, the staff's going to be much better positioned to
be able to take care of that.
To be able to deal with that.
In an efficient manner, which is what we all are looking for. But I think we face another type of storm. The rise of healthcare costs, really a surprise. I know that the board tasked you with looking into perhaps combining the health care plan that the county uses with the health care plan that the school uses to see if perhaps we might be able to save some money that way. Just see whether we'd be more efficient and be better for our people. What did you find out?
Well, as you know, I mean, healthcare costs for employers and employees has been a big issue for years. It's kind of a steady march of increase due to a variety of factors. And with the board support and the school board support, we were able to do a joint procurement of healthcare for county and school employees this year. Both boards have approved it. And the result of that is we're moving to a different contract administrator for our insurance.
Okay.
But in doing that, we believe that we have avoided about $1.5 million of expenditures
Yes.
between the schools and the county. And by doing that, we've managed to essentially freeze employee and employer health care costs going into calendar year 2019.
Really?
So compared to, I mean, no one can foresee what happens after that. It's certainly big trends beyond our control out there. But in the short run, the schools and the county working together have saved both the employers and the employees from that annual drip, drip, drip of health insurance increases.
Right. So that's a very good thing, because we never really know what's going to come down the pike, if you will. And I've got my fingers crossed that we don't see a huge spike in it again.
Well, we've covered some of the exciting, positive accomplishments of 2018, and I suppose the show wouldn't be complete without giving you a chance to comment on some of the disappointments.
Actually, Neil, my biggest disappointment has been with the airport.
The Airport Commission invited York, Williamsburg, and
That's
James
correct.
City more than a year ago
Oh, yes.
to join and appoint members. All three of those localities did so.
The board appointed District 4 Supervisor Jeff Wasmer to the commission, but he's never been able to sit.
Yet there hasn't ever been a
No.
final confirming vote
No.
from one existing member.
That's right.
And this is in a time when the airport is certainly not booming, and it would appear that everybody ought to be pulling together. So I have to agree with you. That's something I've been pretty disappointed
Right.
about.
I-
Maybe 2019 will take
let's
us in a
hope it's
different direction.
You know, it's going to be on the agenda, I'm sure, for the next chairman. But I can't stress how important it is, and we really need to get this moving. An airport is a backbone, as well as the road transportation that we have. We need all types of transportation if we want our economy to grow, and we just don't have it right now.
I'm pretty sure you don't want to end this program with
No.
a discussion of a disappointment.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
why don't we wrap by sort of talking about, something that, you feel really good about and you've been excited about during 2018.
Well, what I've really been excited about this term has been how well this board has worked together as a team to provide good governance for our citizens. But it's not just the board. It's a larger team. I mean, it's the administration, your employees, our volunteers, and even the service organizations in the county, all pulling together to make York County the special place that it is. I've really been very excited about that, and I've enjoyed so much my relationship with you and your staff this time, and again, I thank you for that. But I don't want to pat you on the back too much, so I won't do that anymore. But what I
Oh, come on.
no, I'd like to pat the citizens on the back a little bit too, because this county is doing very, very well. And I so appreciate it when I'm out buying groceries in the store, when a gentleman came up to me and he just wanted to tell me that he and his wife wanted us to know that the county was doing very well and the board was doing very well, and he felt it was in good hands. Or just another person who came up to me just wanted to say thank you. That really means a lot. I also love it when I'm down at the waterfront and a tourist tells me how much he's enjoying our outdoor concerts, and that she comes more than once a year to Riverwalk to listen to the outdoor music. And it's really great when I have a mother tell me that our fields at the MAC are the best fields that her children have played on in the region. And you know, you want to be a little prideful about things like that. The reason behind all of this is because it's a team. It's a team effort of everybody who works together to make this county the special place it is. And I'm really grateful that I am part of that York County team. And I guess I have to say thank you to my supporters and my voters for giving me the opportunity. I think the future of York County is really what's exciting. It's all the intriguing, interesting opportunities that lie ahead for us, and some of them are on the planning stages and some of them people are still thinking about. I hope that our citizens feel the same way, and I hope you do too.
Well, I do, and Sheila, let me just say, I think your team analogy is right on. For a complicated community and a complicated organization, it really helps when people are rowing in the same direction, which I think generally we get right here, and I appreciate you noticing that, and I certainly concur. And I guess I want to close by just pointing out that this is, you're now sort of completing your second year as chair. I think it's been 2 good years for the county, certainly 2 enjoyable years from my perspective as your county administrator. Look forward to that bright future that you described.
Well, it certainly has been a very enjoyable 2 years for me too, and I have to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to serve the citizens in this manner.
Sheila, it's been a great conversation today.
Yes, it has.